Hey there, and welcome to the Fiihr Factor, the podcast that shines a light on real stories, smart strategies, and the occasional hard truth about running a business. Think of this as your quick dose of clarity before your first cup of coffee. Let's go. Most business owners aren't really managing, almost none of them are leading, and the gap is costing them more than they realize. I've walked into a lot of businesses where the owner's completely buried, working 60 hours a week, first one in, last one out, and every problem lands on their desk. When I ask them how the team's doing, I usually hear some version of the same answer. Well, they can't do anything without me. What they think is a team problem is actually usually a leadership problem. More specifically, it's a management problem disguised as a leadership problem. And those are not the same thing. I want to break down what that actually means because it's one of the most important distinctions I make with clients, and it changes how they think about their business entirely. So management and leadership, thinking about it, they're not interchangeable. Here's the simplest way I can put it. Management is a system. Leadership is a direction. Management is about competency and productivity, managing systems, making sure the right people are doing the right things the right way. It's measurable. It's process driven. It answers the question, is this working? If not, how am I going to make it work? Leadership is about passion and focus. It's about giving people a reason to care, a direction to move in, and a standard to hold themselves to. It answers a different question. The why question. Why does this matter? Am I inspired? Both are necessary, but most small business owners have neither fully built out. They have something in between, a collection of habits, reactions, and preferences that sort of functions as a management and assumption that people should already understand the why and the where and the how we're going, and they should just understand that and know that without being explicitly told. That assumption is almost always wrong. There's three things that separate a team from a group of employees. I use a simple framework when I start working with a client on team issues. There are three behaviors that define a team that actually functions: ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Or, right? Put an oar in the water. Take ownership, take accountability, take responsibility. And then there's three that kill it: blame, excuses, denial, bed. Yeah, laying in bed, that's not power. Every team lands somewhere on the spectrum, and the leader determines where. If a business owner tolerates blame, if people can point fingers at each other when something goes wrong without any consequences, that is the culture. Yes, every company has a culture, even if it's just one person. You have a culture. If the owner makes excuses themselves, the team learns that excuses are acceptable. So that's the hard part. As owners, we actually have to follow our own advice and drink our own Kool-Aid, which is we can't be making excuses and blaming other people. I actually got into this exact dynamic with Bartek Barkowski a while back. Here's what he said.
If you don't structure the tasks that you delegate to your people well enough, you will find yourself in a position where good people are typically working overtime. They are overwhelmed with the tasks because they are
Yes.
good. So if you want a task to be done, you give it to them because they will deliver. And then the people who are not good, and actually they should not be in your organization anymore because they don't deliver and they don't provide any value, they get money, they get paid, they're always relaxed, never stressed because they don't do
No.
anything. And that's actually not their fault. That's your fault that you create a structure which allows for that.
Yes. That you hit the nail on the head. You can't blame them for that. You got to blame yourself, because if you didn't create the right structure and right accountability mechanisms, then they can get away with it. If denial is default when a number one thing is missed or a client is unhappy, the team learns to avoid honesty. This isn't about being harsh, it's about being clear. Teams that operate above the line, where people take ownership, hold themselves accountable, and accept responsibility for outcomes, almost always have a leader who models those behaviors first. If you're not growing, you're dying. That principle applies to trees, people, and businesses. So here's what I see most often: the head leader without the heart. What do I mean by that? Most business owners I work with are what I'd call head leaders. They're smart, they can plan, they can analyze, they can problem solve. They know the business better than anyone in the room, and that's exactly the problem. When you lead entirely from the head, from plans, processes, and tasks, you miss the thing that actually makes people move and teams move. People need to feel like they matter. They need to feel like their opinions matter. They need to understand why the work is important, not just what to do next. The research on this is clear. When companies go through significant change or growth, the ones that succeed are the ones that invest in their people first, that communicate the vision, build belief in it, and make the team feel like participants rather than order takers. They have to feel like they are a part of the solution and that they make a difference. The ones that fail tend to announce the plan and assume execution will follow, or change will even happen. So I'll give you an example. I'm working with a CPA firm. The 3 partners were doing the work of 10 because they never built out a team that could operate without them. Every decision flowed upward. Everything had to run through the partners. Every problem required a partner's decision. They were solving all the problems. They were coming up with solutions with all the problems, and they were the decision point for all the problems. They were head leading in a business that needed heart. Once we restructured accountability and started treating team members as managers and professionals with their own books of business and their own accountability, not just task completers, the dynamics shifted completely. The partners could actually do partner work. The managers could do managers work, and the employees could do employee work. And the managers felt more empowered as well. So that added $500,000 to their bottom line. The business is always capable of that. The leadership structure just hadn't unlocked it, and it's easier for someone from the outside like me to come in and look at it and get perspective and come up with those solutions. There's an exercise that I come back with almost every client who's working through our team or leadership issues. It sounds simple, but most people can't answer it quickly. What kind of leader do you want to be known as? Not what kind of manager, what kind of leader? What policies you want to enforce? What do you want the people who work with you to say about your leadership 5 years from now? I actually had my team at my last job, corporate job, ask me about this. Here's my negotiables, or my non-negotiables. What do I stand for? Urgency, skills, attitude. Yeah, that's USA. Urgency to get done what needs to get done, to get back to your customers in a timely manner, to get back to your people and your teammates in a timely manner. Skills, intellectual curiosity, just learning, continuous learning. Attitude of gratitude, thankful to be here, thankful to be alive, and attitude of positivity. That's pretty self-explanatory. Most owners haven't thought about this. They're just focused on the day-to-day and the grind, and they never set the standard. And the other thing is, some of them have done this work and they have a mission statement and a vision statement, but they don't really know what it is. And if it doesn't fit on the front of a t-shirt, it's too long and people aren't going to get it. Leadership is a choice. You decide what it looks like. And if you're leading a team right now, it looks like something. The team's going to calibrate what you model, whether you're intentional about it or not. The good news is it's a fixable thing. I've watched owners who are deep in reactive management make real shifts in how they showed up as leaders and watch their teams respond accordingly. It doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with a clear decision about what you want to be, who you want to be, and then building the skills and structure around it. If your team can't operate without you, that's a leadership signal, not a team quality problem. Now, there may be a team quality problem, but that's a separate issue. If decisions always flow upward, if accountability is inconsistent, if your best people seem disengaged, the fix starts with how the business is being led. That's not a criticism. That's just where real leverage is. And that is why we got to get you out of the bottleneck of decision making. If you're working through a team accountability or leadership development right now, that's exactly what our leadership and sales training programs are built around, as well as our management programs. It's not a generic framework. Specific skills and structures that make a team actually function on a higher level, and things we're going to actually implement in our business, and then we do accountability every week to take action. If any of this sounds familiar, if your team's running on your energy instead of on its own, that's worth a real conversation. So what kind of leader do you want to be known as? Most business owners have never answered that question, and their team knows it. I ask this question to almost every business owner I start working with. What kind of leader do you want to be known as? Most of them pause for a long time. Some give me a version of, I want to be a good leader. I want people to know I care. Some people have traits that they want that people to be known for: truth, integrity, responsibility. But none of them have a real clear, deliberate answer, almost none of them. That gap between the leader they're being by default and the leader they actually want to be shows up everywhere in the business. It's how decisions get made. It's how people are managed. It's how people are being held accountable. It's who stays and who goes. It's whether the team performs at the level the business needs. Leadership identity isn't a soft concept. It sounds squishy, it sounds soft. Culture is not a soft concept. It's real. You have a culture, you have a leadership identity. So what's your default way of leading? People have a default way. They lead the way they were managed in a lot of cases. They lead the way that they learned from somebody above them or around them. They respond to stress the way they would naturally respond, the default way. They set standards based on what feels comfortable rather than what the businesses actually need. That's not leadership, that's habit. The result of that is not great. Let's leave it at that. Deliberate leadership starts with a decision. Who do I want to be as a leader? How do I want the people around me to experience working with me? That question forces clarity that running on instinct never does. I've worked with owners who are genuinely great at their craft, technically excellent, brilliant decision makers, client focused, smart, grinders, hardworking. They never thought about their leadership identity at all. As a result, their team had no model to follow. People filled in the gaps with their own interpretations of what was acceptable, what was rewarded, and what would be tolerated. And what we tolerate, we encourage. Also, what decisions we make or don't make are decisions. So not making a decision, still a decision to do nothing. The results were predictably inconsistent. Alex Vore, retired Marine colonel and author of Speed Kills, had a great way of putting this. You don't need the perfect big call. You need to keep making the small ones.
The environment and your competition begin to react to you based upon what you're doing. And the other thing that I think is important is sometimes what you do is it's like a boxer that does jabs. And so they make a decision to make every jab, but they don't throw that haymaker all the time because sometimes that'll leave you exposed. So maybe a bunch of little decisions to start affecting the environment are better than one big. You don't want to bet the farm on everything.
Once the owner got clear on the leader they wanted to be and started showing up that way consistently, the team recalibrated fast. Here's something I'll often do in early coaching engagement. I ask the owner to think about leaders they genuinely admire. Could be a boss, a coach, a business figure, someone they've heard speak, doesn't matter. Just leaders whose style or approach resonated with them. Then I ask, what did those leaders have in common? What did they do that made you think, I want to lead like that? Write down 10 to 20 words, traits, qualities, behaviors, the specifics of how those leaders showed up. What comes out of this exercise is usually the first honest draft of someone's leadership identity, not the one that they were handed, but the one they actually want. From there, the work is figuring out where they are today versus where they want to be and building the skills and structure to close that gap. Some of it's mindset, some of it's specific skills, communication, delegation, decision-making. Some of it is accountability, systems that make the standard real rather than aspirational. It's a must. Leadership is a choice. It's not something you're handed. Treat it with the respect it deserves. So I've worked with a lot of business owners over the years, the ones who build the strongest teams, the ones where people want to stay, perform at high level, and grow, share a few consistent traits. They're clear about expectations, not vague, not implied, explicitly clear about what success looks like in every role and consistent about measuring it, figuring out how those roles fit into the overall organization and that success. They model the behavior they want from the team, and if they want accountability, they hold themselves accountable visibly. If they want ownership, they demonstrate what ownership looks like at the top. People follow what leaders do, not what leaders say. They invest in their people, not just skills, but actually caring about whether the people on their team are developing, figuring out where those people want to go and helping them grow towards that. The best leaders I've seen create other leaders. That's how they scale, not by doing it themselves, but by building people who can carry more. Look at great football coaches. The best football coaches, the gauge of them is not just how many games they won, but how many coaches did they develop that are now coaching other teams. So these leaders, they treat leadership as a job calling rather than a job function. When it's just a role you fill, you manage. When it's something you take seriously as a responsibility, you lead. So you can't become that leader overnight. You can start today. One thing I'm always clear about with clients, define your leadership identity. Doesn't mean you're there yet, but it means you have a direction. It means you have a North Star. We don't just drive somewhere without knowing where we're going. You can't transform your leadership overnight. What you can do is make a clear decision about what you're building and who you're building towards and what you want to be, and identify the 2 or 3 things, the non-negotiables that need to change and start consistently. I've watched owners who led entirely through pressure and urgency and reactivity, but they learned how to communicate vision and genuine buy-in. That's what they got from their team. I've watched owners who avoided hard conversations and let things go, learn to address their performance directly, and see their culture improve as a result. None of it happened because they suddenly had different instincts. It happened because they made a decision and got the right support to follow through. That's what coaching is for. And it's amazing to see. And when you stop allowing things you don't want to happen in your organization, the good people will stay. Here's the deal. The bad people will always stay. The good people, if you don't get this right, they're going to leave. So that's the real cost of leaving this undefined. If you haven't defined your leadership identity, your team has defined it for you based on your reactions under pressure, based on what you tolerate, based on how you show up on the hard days. That version of you is running the culture right now, whether you intended it to or not. Getting intentional about leadership isn't a luxury for big companies. It's one of the highest leverage things a small business owner can do because the team performs to the standard the leader sets, consciously or not. So vision and culture, they're not HR concepts. They're the reason people show up and actually give a damn. One of the most common things I hear from business owners is that their team just doesn't care. They don't get it. They don't understand the big picture. They don't take initiative. They don't act like they care about the business the way the owner does. Here's a question I always follow that with. Have you told them where the business is going? Not the revenue goal for next quarter, not the profit goal, the actual destination. Why does the business exist? What is it trying to become? What does it mean to work here versus somewhere else? Most of the time, they haven't told them. Or they've told them a really lean version of what they really want to experience in their business and what they really want of their grand vision. And they just assume people should know. But the people don't know. And without clarity, you can't expect alignment. And by the way, if you don't tell them, they're going to write their own narrative. You can't expect ownership without clarity. You definitely can't expect your team to make decisions that reflect the direction you're trying to go because you've never told them what that direction is. Vision isn't a poster on the wall. It's a direction everyone can move in. When I talk about vision with a client, I'm not talking about a mission statement exercise. I'm talking about a simple, honest answer to this question. Where is this business going and why does it matter? The answer needs to be clear enough that someone new to the team could hear it and immediately understand what they're part of. Specific enough that the team can use it to make decisions when you're not in the room. Compelling enough that people want to be part of getting there. So our vision at Action Coach is world abundance through business re-education. We can change lives by helping businesses grow, helping them succeed, helping them hire more people. That leads to investment in their local economies, in charities, in their families, and it gives them freedom. And that's how we change the world. That's our vision. The vision, your guiding star, doesn't change every quarter. It's the long-range destination that everything else, your goals, your hiring standards, all should be oriented around. Without it, every decision the team makes is disconnected. Every hire is a roll of the dice. Every problem gets handled based on individual judgment rather than a shared understanding of what the business is trying to be. So I've worked with owners who were so far into the day-to-day when they generally hadn't thought about their destination in years. You know, what happens is they have this vision. You get into this business, you have this vision, and then it becomes crap. I got to make payroll. And if your vision is making payroll, the best you're going to do is make payroll. But once we got them to define where they're trying to go with the business and started communicating it consistently, something shifted, not just in strategy, but in how the team showed up. People want to be part of something that's going somewhere. Give them a destination and they'll move towards it. A team without a clear direction doesn't drift. It defaults to whatever feels easiest, most comfortable, or least risky. Culture is what you tolerate, not what you post on the website. I want to be direct about something. Culture is not what you say you value. It's what you demonstrate you value by what you allow, what you reward, what you address. If you say you value accountability but let consistent underperformance slide, your culture is not accountable. If you say you value communication but make it uncomfortable for people to bring you problems, your culture doesn't have real communication. The team's watching what you do, not reading the value statement. Ann Shadow built her whole company around getting this right. after walking out of a toxic one.
But I created a workspace also where people do not have any fear. Like if something goes wrong, or let's say, I mean, we are all humans, we also make mistakes, including me. I want also that the person step forward and say, hey, I just spotted a mistake. And nobody needs to be afraid of anybody. It happens. Let's fix it very quickly together, find a solution together, and then we move on.
100%. I think that's so important because everybody says, oh, I have a company where we allow people to fail. Well, sure, once. But if you don't react right to that, then that's going to be an issue. And you as a leader are setting that tone. It's like, hey, look, folks, just like you said, we're all going to make mistakes. It's how we handle that and how we react to it and what we learn from it. Now, if we do it again, now we got an issue. But assuming that we are changing, or sometimes it's out of our control, frankly, but we got to address the thing right away, be honest about it, don't freak out, and then move on. Defining your culture starts with an honest look at what actually matters to the people this business touches, the owners, the team, the clients, the community. What standards are non-negotiable? What behaviors are celebrated? What gets addressed directly and immediately when it falls short? These aren't rhetorical questions. They need real answers, communicated clearly and then modeled from the top. The businesses I've seen that build the strongest cultures are the ones where the owner is explicit about expectations, where this is how we do things around here. That's a real statement with real examples behind it, not a vague aspiration. People want to know where the standard is. They want to know what the standard is. They want to perform to the standard they're given and hopefully overperform, especially if they're driven and they have a great leader. So the practical work of building alignment around where you're going is real work. Getting the team aligned, the leadership aligned about vision and culture. It's not a one-time meeting. It's an ongoing practice. It's the standard that we keep coming back to. It starts with a few concrete steps most owners haven't taken. Where do you want your business to be in 10 years? Where do you want it to be in 5 to get to 10? Where do you want it to be in 2 to get to the 5? That's not a financial projection, although that's part of it, but it's a real description of what the company looks like, who it serves, what it's known for. Identify the 2 or 3 non-negotiable cultural standards that define how you operate. Be very specific. We treat clients well. It's not a standard, but we respond to every client communication within 24 hours is. My CPA firm, one of my standards that we've agreed on is the client should never have to call you to ask where their tax form is or to ask about tax advice. We should be proactive with that, for instance. Communicate both regularly and consistently, not once in an all-hands meeting, in how you hire, how you onboard, how you run your team meetings, and how you address it when the standard isn't met. Probably the most important. Hold yourselves to the same standard you're setting. We have to drink our own Kool-Aid. The culture starts with how the owner behaves on the hard days when the pressure's on. It's not complicated, but it is. It requires clarity and consistency that most owners haven't built yet. The good news is that once it's in place, it starts to run itself. If you hold to these standards, great people self-select in. They bring other people in with them. People who don't fit the culture self-select out, and they have reason to. It's okay. Fly free, little bird. If this isn't the place you want to be, go find a place you do want to be. Directions get easier because there's a framework for making them. So here's the bottom line. Your team isn't disengaged because they don't care. They're disengaged because nobody's given them compelling reason to engage. No clear destination, no explicit standard, no real sense of what they're part of beyond a job that pays them. That's totally fixable. It starts with getting you clear on where the business is going and what it stands for and what you stand for, and then communicating that consistently enough that the team can actually move in that direction. One of the most valuable things I do with clients is carve out the time and structure to work on this. Always, every quarter, get away from the day-to-day, get a clear framework and real accountability to follow through. It's called Growth Club. It's our 90-day planning workshop. It's built specifically around this kind of strategic work. One session, one clear plan, and a team that knows where it's going, and actionable steps to get there. You're a great leader. Let's make you even better.
2 weeks. That's all it takes to see where your business actually stands. No contract, no pressure, just a clear look at what's working and what's costing you. Start your free coaching or take the assessment first if you want a quick gut check. Head to warrenfiihr.com. Let's go.